All right, we're going to do some $1 million picks. We have all the ringers in town this week. So I grabbed Sheil Kapadia, Anthony Dabbundo. They're doing this with me in person. And I'm super happy that you're here because this is the toughest week of the year. The lines are super weird. Yeah. They're like old school, high lines, huge home dogs. There's teams that I feel like we've either given up on or we're too bullish on. And it has all the makings of a zigzag week. And I'm scared. And I might actually, we did really well on $1 million picks last week, although we should have swept. Lost by the half point in Packers game. And then I still don't know how the Chargers didn't beat the Cardinals.
Yeah.
But when you have a guy on the team you bet on that fumbles the ball out of bounds for the touchback, has that team ever then covered?
No, that's an L every time. Yeah, that's an L every time.
You just immediately know. It's like a black cat gets thrown on the TV. What are you the most afraid of from this week?
I think you said it, the big Lions. Like, you have the Lions. I'm like, the Lions are awesome. The Lions can get to the Super Bowl. They're 11.5-point favorites. I'm looking at the Panthers, who Andy Dalton gets in the car accident. Bryce Young's back. I'm like, do I want to take Bo Nix to cover 10.5 points? So those
can the Broncos score 10 points?
Yeah.
Everybody
Ravens, Browns.
scores 20 on Carolina by halftime, though.
Right.
Yeah. So the big lines are the scariest.
What are you the most scared of?
The bad teams are worse than they've been in years, according to DVOA. That's scary. And road favorites are 16-2 in the last 3 weeks.
Wow.
So, and it should have been 17-1 if the Chargers beat the Cardinals, right?
Jalen Reagor elevated from the practice squad to ruin the game.
So you're the most scared of that?
I mean, things never last forever. NFL, not for long. So I feel like there has to be some mean reversion. The first 4 weeks, I came on the pod, we talked about it. Underdogs were crushing it. And now the spreads are really, really big. There's 6 games with at least a touchdown spread. And there's a couple I like and a couple I want no part of.
So I'll walk you through a couple of the games that I ultimately decided to stay away from before we get to the ones I liked. And then I want to hear what you guys like. I was looking at the Seahawks all week, +3 against Buffalo, because I still feel like you can throw on Buffalo, and that's the one thing I really believe Seattle can do. And I actually think their offense might be a little better than people realize. And then ultimately, Metcalf being hurt, not knowing what's happening with him. And then I realized, like, I just hate betting against Josh Allen. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
And you just feel so stupid. And so I was like, I think I'm out, but you guys could also talk me back into that.
I like the other side quite a bit.
Good.
Yeah, I like the Bills -3 is one of my favorite picks of the week. I'm looking at it. That Seahawks team last week against the worst pass rush in the NFL in Atlanta, Geno Smith was pressured on 50% of his dropbacks. Now, he played awesome. He's able to play under pressure, and he did that in that game, and they won. But the Bills' defense has overachieved this year. I mean, they've got a good pass rush. Their offense is top 5 in the NFL against that Seahawks defense that has not been great. I feel like the Seahawks, I don't want to call them the good, bad team, but I do feel like they're if you lose to the Seahawks, you probably stink. But against good teams, they played the 49ers, the Lions. Those have both been double-digit losses this year. So I think the Bills are really good, actually, with that Amari Cooper addition. He played well last week. And so in kind of a 3-point spread, yeah, they can run the ball. Their offensive line is good. So I like the Bills -3 in that game.
You think the Colts are the good, bad team, or would you go with the Seattle?
Are they good enough? He's the Colts guy. Are they good enough to be the good, bad team? Maybe.
They're the coin flip every game team. Every game just decided in the last 5 minutes this year.
I was looking at their point for every game, and every game was like 2 points, 3 points, 6 points.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the Colts, I think the Seahawks are better than the Colts. I think the Seahawks will surprise some teams, but they're not healthy. They're not good on the offensive line. And it's like if Geno turns into a magician and has one of those games against a bad defense, they can win. But I think if I see a team that I think can get to the Super Bowl playing the Seahawks, I feel pretty good about that team taking care of them.
Any other Seahawks thoughts?
Buffalo has been running the ball a lot all year until last week. They actually got more pass happy for the first time. And it is interesting to me because they have now more options with Cooper in the lineup to throw. And the one concerning thing with me for Buffalo is it's always been that they play the too high. They never give up big plays. This year they are giving up more big plays. And so I do kind of think Seattle could stay in this with some explosives if they had Metcalf. But without him, who's the explosive threat on this offense now?
Seattle 27th against the run. Their defense feels like Buffalo can run on them.
Yeah, they should.
If Metcalf was playing, I'd be a little more bullish on Seattle. But so that was one. Can we I guess we got to talk Packers Jags. I can't believe the Jags are even in the conversation. But this line is offensive. I mean, The Packers are 4.5-point favorites in Jacksonville. It's probably going to be hot. The Jaguars are probably going to be able to move the ball on them, I'm guessing. And then conversely, I haven't liked the way Jordan Love's looked. I like that Packers team, but they have a big game next week. Coming off, they had a big game last week. This just feels so trappy to me.
I know.
We're going to go to Jacksonville and beat the shit out of them, and it just scares me.
Yeah.
As somebody who likes to kind of follow where does the lines move on certain teams throughout the year, because you'll see that big groups, people with a lot of market influence, they will bet certain teams repeatedly throughout the year. And there's no team in the NFL that has gotten more of that support than the Jags. If you look at the spreads, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, somebody has come in and said, we love Jacksonville. I don't know who they are. If you're betting Jacksonville every week and you're listening to this podcast, call me. We can talk about what you see that I don't. But Green Bay has some real red flags. And
well, talk about them. Give us 3.
So their early down numbers are terrible. Their success rate numbers are very mediocre. It's a very boomer bust team, and they forced a ton of turnovers. They've hit a ton of explosives. That's good, but how sustainable is it is a question that I have about Green Bay.
This would be a stay away for me. I'm not. We've had interventions on this podcast about the Jaguars before. I'm not doing it against Matt LaFleur, who wins 70% of his games or whatever it is. And you're right about Jordan Love, but we saw him the second half of last year. Like, there was some boomer bust to him, and then he put it together, and he was sensational. I think that stretch is coming. Like, if you're looking at sleeper MVP candidates, I think Jordan Love has like a 7-8 game stretch coming up where he's going to be one of the best players in one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I just don't think those turnovers are going to last. I can't take Jacksonville. They won by running it 18 times in a row. Like, how often is that going to happen? So I understand sort of the analytical view.
They beat the soft Patriots.
That's right, the soft Patriots. I don't know that formula is going to work against the Packers.
You should put this in your column. You write an excellent betting column for us every week. Every year there's an I hate myself team where you bet them and then you literally hate yourself halfway through the game. And that's the Jaguars this year. I don't even know who's even in the running against them for that.
I mean, if you bet the Browns at any point this year, you probably
but
you got duped.
You're just ignoring obvious signs. Well, the Cardinals are just like the zigzag team. Like, it's like, oh, and then all of a sudden they're losing by 30.
Yeah.
And certain defenses just seem like they can shut down Kyler completely. Yeah. And then other ones just let him run around. And I never understand how teams don't just defend Kyler the same way.
Yeah. Giants are probably in that. I hated myself for picking the Giants last week. You had the Eagles, and I was like, I don't know. I kind of like I hated myself 8 minutes into that game.
So if I gave you a parlay with the Jags up to +7.5 and the over up to 39.5, and it was -120, you're not intrigued at all. Because there's probably going to be points in this game, right?
You could do I know you don't like team totals. House, you got mad at House about that, but why not just bet the Jags team total?
I just had bad luck with team totals. So I'm not saying I'm right or wrong.
Okay. Yeah,
I stink at them.
I like the Jags. I think there'll be points. So I generally agree with that.
All right, I'm going to cross them off. This next game I might not cross off. Colts, who, as we said, they might be the good bad team. Catching Houston in a really interesting spot where they've already played them, the game was close.
Yeah.
Every game they're in is tight, and they're getting 5.5 at home. And I don't understand, without Nico Collins, why I wouldn't tease the Colts backwards and play around with the over-under. Why wouldn't I do that?
Every advanced stat, and Dabbundo and I have talked about this, every advanced stat on the Texans is suggesting they're a fraud. And I like the Texans coming into the season, but if you look at any of the offensive stuff and what they're doing on early downs, they're +6 on the season. Their point differential, like, their offense has underachieved maybe as much as any offense in the NFL.
But they didn't have Mixon for half of that.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, Joe Mixon's fine, but I'm not. If Joe Mixon means that much to your offense, then you might have some issues. So I know they don't have Nico Collins, but yeah, I like the Colts a little bit in that game. I don't totally trust it, but I don't trust that Texans team. I think fading the Texans while their record's really good and all the numbers suggest they might not be that good is probably a good play for the next 2-3 weeks.
Do you believe in the second game thing?
I think it's fascinating how much the perception of these two teams has even changed in the last 7 weeks. Like, both have overperformed relative, if you just look at their records, right? If you told a Colts fan before the season, we're going to be 4-3, they would have taken it. Texans 5-2, they feel great. And yet I feel like under the hood, both are kind of worse. Like Richardson has been worse than I think most expected. It's very boomer bust. And honestly, Stroud has been very boomer bust. And the whole Texans offense is, okay, it's third down. Stroud drops back. He looks, where's Nico Collins? He throws in the ball and they move the chains. That's the whole offense. And the last 2 weeks, they did it to your team. Everybody has. They can't score in the second half. Every game, it's like 3-point second half, 3-point second half against Buffalo, against pretty much every team they played this year. Last week, Stroud couldn't get to 100 pass yards. So I don't really trust this offense.
Colts to 11.5 and the under up to 52.5. I don't.
Yeah.
The only way I lose that is if Anthony Richardson just loses his mind and throws like a pick six and has a fumble. I haven't liked what I've seen from him at all. It doesn't seem like he's ready to be a efficient starting quarterback yet. And the thing that made him special was the running, which they seem a little more hesitant for him to do now. So now it's like, well, what is this then?
Yeah.
Because we were being promised like this Cam Newton, Josh Allen physical threat who's going to run the ball. And now they're seemingly afraid to do that. This is your favorite team. But
Yeah.
don't you feel like they have them on the shackles, basically?
We were sitting in the movie theater in the Spotify office on Sunday. And at one point, Danny Kelly turned around and said, so like, are you still a believer? And I'm like, yes, but I have to be a little quieter about my belief now. I can't. It's harder for me to like put my chest out and say we got the QB1 in the draft because obviously Stroud's been as good as he's been, and you know what? I would still happy they took him over Levis because that was basically the option.
Right.
And you know,
I'm going to say
it's a
that
low bar to clear.
It's a low bar to clear.
Know.
It's a low bar to clear. But you
you
had to take the swing, and I'm still not out yet.
Well, they're in a weird spot because they're 4-3 in a conference that's not that good.
Yeah.
Right.
With a defense that stinks.
Right.
Yeah.
But I like your receiver weapons, and it seems like whoever's in the game can run the ball. So I don't know. I'm going to mark this one. I don't think these two teams can get to, like their first game was 56 points. That was with Nico Collins and with Richardson hitting some bombs. I don't see that happening again. All right, I'm going to mark that one down. And then the Chiefs Raiders game is a stay away to me. As much as I want to be like, oh, they talk shit to Mahomes. I just think those home teams getting that many points, the history of that is a nightmare with teases. And we have the Browns in that situation.
Yeah.
And we have the Raiders. I think the Raiders are awful.
Yeah.
I just don't. To me, that's an automatic no play.
It's probably a stay away. Division game, line that high. I am tempted a little bit though with the Chiefs, with the way they've played the last 2 weeks. They've had double-digit wins in each of those games, and I agree with you. That Mahomes narrative thing is kind of a factor. I'm sure that's it. He's looking for anything. Last week, look how they're underdogs, and I know he had the 2 interceptions, but he was treating that game with the way he was running like that was a big game. And that Raiders team they're just waiting to, they've already collapsed. They're just waiting to collapse more. They traded their best wide receiver. They've got nothing to look forward to. They have no players.
They can't run the ball or stop the run.
And they turn it over. Their defense isn't good. Their defense was good last year when they played the Chiefs and upset them. Their defense this year is like a bottom 5 unit. So if I had to pick a side, I would pick the Chiefs, but I'm kind of with you. I like to stay away when it's a division game that line that high.
So if I gave you this 8-point tease, which is even money on FanDuel, Ravens -9.5, Lions -10.5, and Chiefs -9.5. And you could tease all those under 3 and all of them have to cover. Who would you be the most worried about? Ravens, Lions, or Chiefs? It has
to be the Ravens. Right? The first game with Jameis?
Well, which could go either way. But
right, but that's you're introducing
I think that Browns defense has been okay.
I agree.
And Schwartz, the problem is the Ravens are rushing for 200 plus yards a game.
Yeah.
I can't.
The Ravens
betting
have given
against Jameis seems smart.
The Ravens have given up the most 20-plus yard plays in the league. So if Jameis wants to get in there and lob some balls up, see what happens, could get dicey. This feels like the kind of game that we look late in the fourth quarter, and you're looking at it and you're like, wait, Baltimore's up 3 with the ball.
I know.
10 minutes to go.
It seems too easy. I think that teases a stay away. But I looked at it long and hard. Dolphins against the Cardinals with Tua coming back. And the Dolphins actually played pretty well last week, considering they don't have a quarterback. Like, I thought their defense kept them hanging around, but this to me seems like an all-time zigzag stay away.
100%.
I want no part of this
I want no part of the game. I agree.
I don't know what to expect. Arizona might be a no-bet team for me now. I don't know how the Chargers didn't beat them. I don't even really know what the Cardinals did. And then you guys have a minute to talk me into the Cowboys plus 4.5 against the 49ers. Go.
I'm not doing it. I like the other side. This Cowboys defense stinks. I don't care who's out for the 49ers. Give me Kyle Shanahan against a Cowboys defense that probably still won't have Micah Parsons, that can't stop anybody. And I like the Niners in that. I'm not a believer in this Cowboys team at all. I think the Niners actually bounce back in that game.
I've been a Dak guy forever, but there's one team he has never solved, and it's the Niners. Their defense, even no matter who the coordinator was, that personnel, like Warner's ability to take away the middle of the field has really, I think, hurt Dak, and he's always had problems in that matchup. That's what scares me the most, more than any of the Niners stuff. I mean, offensively, they look a mess. You guys talked about on the Ringer NFL show, all yak now. It's no more easy button plays for Purdy to just kind of get guys in space and just dominate. The Monstars are no longer, but I don't know. I don't
kind of a
Dak.
must win for the Niners too.
And
Yeah.
Dallas.
I mean, they'd be 3-5. Well, Dallas isn't good. I mean, that's
Right.
the reason to pick the Niners over everything else is I just don't think Dallas is good.
Yeah.
But I also don't know who I'm scared of the Niners if Debo doesn't play. So now it's just like, I got to stop George Kittle.
This feels like all the nerds after this game are like, oh my God, Kyle Shanahan, look at what he did on this run play. And oh my God, he had this linebacker in a blender. That type of game.
The Ronnie Bell game somehow.
Yeah.
Stay away. Okay. Let's go to the picks that I actually liked. So, and you guys can feel free to throw your body in front of any of these. Oh, first of all, before I do that, what's your favorite other than the Bills?
I like the Bears.
All right, I have them. They're coming up.
Okay.
What's your favorite?
I'm going to go with the Jags.
Wow.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate every part of it, but give me, Jacksonville. I'm going to hate this on Sunday, but.
At least it's not a London game. You won't feel terrible until 2:00 Eastern
You and
time.
Raheem just cannot resist. You just can't. And Austin Gale's the worst. Like he was like Deshaun's last fan. So no, this is the week. I think he can get it going.
He needed Deshaun to keep playing so he could have the content on Twitter where he could say Deshaun is the worst quarterback in the history of football.
he just would not give up on him. Okay. My first favorite game. Sorry, Sheil. The Bengals down to -1.5 against the Eagles.
Okay.
I don't think you can stop passing offenses. And I mean you like you're on the Eagles.
Yeah.
I just don't think you're going to be able to stop Higgins and Burrow and Chase. And I think that Tampa game a couple weeks ago was more of a snapshot for who you are on defense.
It could be. Now, the last 2 weeks, they haven't allowed a touchdown. I know they've played.
Who'd you play?
They've played bad offenses. It's true.
Bad offenses.
Yeah.
You played Deshaun. You played Danny Dimes.
Listen, Dimes was carving up some defenses earlier in
Yeah.
the season. No, it's true. This is a test for them. I will say their corners, though, have played really well. When they were struggling against the Bucs, a lot of it was the pass rush wasn't getting home. They had 8 sacks last week against the Giants. Again, I know it's the Giants, but their corners, the rookie Quinyon Mitchell and Darius Slay, have been having awesome seasons here. So it's going to be a lot of one-on-one, I think, on the outside with those corners versus the Bengals receivers. And can the Eagles pass rush get home without blitzing? So I actually took the Eagles this week.
Oh
Now I was against them last week,
Why?
but yeah, I was on the Eagles this week because I think Saquon can have a monster game here against that
that's
Bengals
the fear.
defense. Yeah.
Yeah, Cincy, some bad defensive stats with them. They're actually higher on DVOA than Philly is, but where do you stand, Dabbundo?
So you want to guess how many points the Eagles have in the first quarter this year?
It's not many.
It's not any. 0. They still have not scored in the first quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, Kellen Moore. I don't know what to make of that.
I mean, the offense looks, very similar to what it looked like last year. The passing game is a mess. If there's a reason to take the Bengals, it's because the Eagles, they had 21 dropbacks last week, and 7 of them were a scramble or a sack. They throw go balls to A.J. Brown. There's literally nothing else with this entire passing game. So I understand that reason to take the Bengals. I actually like the under in this game. I think both defenses are going to play pretty well, and it's going to be a little low scoring.
I was looking at my favorite bet on FanDuel, the first half game bet, and I thought I'd get more value on Bengals win first half, Bengals win game, but it's only plus 130. It's not worth it.
Maybe Sheil should do the Cousin Sal special. Do Bengals first half, Eagles game. Comeback.
Maybe. Yeah.
That is plus 750.
Oh.
Lean into the
little
the
bit?
script
Little
problems.
sprinkle?
Where are you on Hurts mentally these days?
He hasn't played well. I mean, their passing game is a mess. He's turning down throws. They're playing like they did his that 2021 when it was just run the ball, hit a couple deep shots, and that's the offense, and they've got nothing else. So he's got to play better.
There's jokes about how they're like a service academy, just run. But even Navy and Army have more interesting offenses than the Eagles do now.
Yeah.
My fear with taking the Bengals is their offensive line's banged up, and your defensive line could just take over the game, and Burrow would be running around for his life.
Yeah.
But I think the Bengals can move the ball and throw on them. I think Burrow's 70% completion this year. He's either leading the league or second, which is basically the Tampa recipe of just the chains are moving, ball's going 6 yards here, 15, 6, and they take the lead early, and then you're in a spot you don't want to be in if you're the Eagles.
That absolutely could happen. I think you're right. The left tackle injury for the Bengals against the Eagles pass rush. Can they get home? That'll probably determine the game.
Bengals run defense has been a little better since Rankins and Hill came back, the two defensive tackles, but they also played some bad run offenses. So I'm not sure where I stand on Cincinnati run defense.
Yeah, they play the same two teams, right? The Giants and the Browns the last 2 weeks, same two teams as the Eagles.
Are you ready to see the Bengals go 3-5? That seems improbable to me.
Especially for someone like me who picked them to win the Super Bowl. So,
I think I'm going to keep them.
I picked them to win the division. So I
heard all the warning flags. I think I might keep that one. Next one is the Bears, which it sounds like we all like. That's up to 2.5. I'm going to do the rare thing of if Daniel somehow plays, I almost feel like that bet should be scratched.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair to be stuck with that line if Daniels is playing, but it doesn't seem like he's going to play. I think I would have liked the Bears anyway in this game. Their defense, the stats are pretty good. They're third on first down, seventh on third down. They're 5th yards per play, 3rd turnovers. They're good in the havoc stuff. I like that havoc ranking. And then Caleb looked really good against some bad teams and some bad defenses. Guess who doesn't have a good defense?
Yeah.
Washington. So whether Daniels plays or not, I think they can move the ball. He's got all 3 receivers. This feels like a get everyone's hope up in a real way. Bears win, followed by their schedule gets harder.
Well, they've got the hardest remaining schedule in the NFL if you look at the betting markets and win totals. But I don't know if I would like it if Daniels was playing, but Mariota, I think people are looking at that game last week and, Cliff Kingsbury created this quarterback-proof offense. It was the Carolina Panthers. We've seen enough.
They're by far the worst team in the league.
We've seen enough of Marcus Mariota over the years. Like, I want a 3-game sample of Marcus Mariota, and this offense is going to be trash. So that's the reason this Bears defense, you mentioned it, they don't give up 20 points against good offenses. So against Marcus Mariota, I think after this game, we're being like, wow, Jaden Daniels was a big reason why that Commanders offense was good.
You lose all the explosive plays with Mariota.
Yeah.
He's going to have a dumb turnover. And there's a reason... he's been in the league for a long time and nobody's ever really been happy with the experience. Like he got benched when he was on the Netflix show.
Yeah, that was an amazing. He just left the show. And
he's like, I'm out and I'm out on the show as well. What do you have to add?
This game for me, I wrote the least on it just because I don't have a strong opinion, but I don't really see the case for Washington. There's one thing that they've gained, and no team has gained more win probability from turnovers than the Commanders this year. That tends to be kind of fluky.
Yeah.
And this is the Bears off the bye, right? So if we're going to see any imagination from this offense, which we have seen very little of thus far, maybe this is the spot we see it from Chicago, because I still have major questions about their offense. Like you said, they beat up on some of the worst defenses in the league.
It would be a horrific Bears loss. Like, wow, we just lost to Marcus Mariota and our schedule is about to get harder. Conversely, Washington wins, they're fine. It's like, hey, our record is still awesome. We still have the NFC East. Like, we still have control over it. We didn't have Daniels for this game. We're fine.
Yeah.
The Commanders still have to play Philly and Dallas twice each, so the NFC East is going to be decided much later than this week, for sure.
They have to play Philly twice, and they have the privilege of playing Dallas twice.
Not sure how Dallas gets any stops, but I'm still not. Dak has just dominated the NFC East in a way that I refuse to give up on them stealing a bunch of division games and somehow sneaking in.
Falcons Bucks is my next one. I don't understand this line at all. And I do understand it, but I also don't. The Falcons, this line moved to Falcons -2.5. They looked awful last week against Seattle. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are no longer playing for the Bucks. We're just skipping over this.
Yeah.
Like, that was the whole reason they were successful. And Bucky Irving's pretty good too. But
He
Baker had
practiced
too.
Thursday.
Baker had these two great receivers that he had real chemistry with and was just moving the ball left and right. And in one game, both of them went down. I just picked up Jalen McMillan in 2 of my leagues for big money, by the way. He's the new number 1. He's 22 years old. Feels like a little must-winish for the Falcons. Coming off an awful loss. I get it. They can't rush the passer, but I just find it hard to believe they're not going to be able to beat the Bucs without any star receivers.
I've got the Falcons. I mean, you nailed it. I've got the Falcons. You watch that Bucs offense. It's not just like, oh, they lost good play. Like, that was the offense. If those two guys can't win one-on-one or create explosive plays or yards after the catch, I don't know. Are they good enough to scheme stuff out? And you lose both of them. It's not like you lost one of them.
You know what it's like if you had opening night for the Sixers and Embiid and Paul George didn't play.
Who's Yabusele? Who's going to be playing? Jalen McMillan is Yabusele.
Atlanta's offense, 5th against the 5th passing. Tampa's D, 29th against the pass. 28th first down. Like, their defense isn't that good.
Yeah.
And they try to do a lot of gimmicks with the blitzes and stuff, which might work against Cousins because the offensive line has been great. But I just, first game, Atlanta stole it. So there's a revenge spot.
Kirk threw for 500 plus yards in that game.
Right.
Woo! And Tampa Bay's secondary has given up more explosives than anybody. Them in Baltimore, giving up the most explosives in the league. So,
Also, so Atlanta is, I'm looking up the standings.
I did tease Tampa for the record.
Oh,
up
you
to
did?
8.5. Yeah.
So Atlanta's 4-3 and Tampa's 4-3.
This game's for the division.
For the division in week 8?
If Atlanta wins, they're going to be 2 games up with the tiebreaker, and Tampa's not going to have their best receivers. If Atlanta wins, this division's kind of over.
Well, more amazing
New Orleans
is that
isn't coming back.
one of these teams might have 5 wins after week 8. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I almost feels like this has to be a tie, but I mean, if Atlanta loses this game, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
You can't beat the Bucs without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. That's literally their whole team.
Yeah, that's my only. Is it a little rat liney? I mean, I'm with you. I saw -2.5.
Atlanta lost by 20 to fucking Seattle last week. So I don't. In Atlanta, they're 4-3, but literally could be
Every game's
1-6.
Yeah.
Atlanta's had 1 game that wasn't down to the final possession, basically, or 2 games now with last week. Every other game is like 2 minutes to go. They're within 6 either way, and Kirk's got to lead a drive to try to win it or lose it. And they got a couple home. They didn't get others home. But yeah, these division games at home, catching 8.5 in a tease. I love Tampa.
You love Tampa
And a tease.
Can you name 4 Tampa receivers?
Do I get to count the running back?
Jalen McMillan.
Do I get to count the running backs?
Name 4.
That's the thing, though.
Who do they run in a 4-receiver set?
They're not going to. That's the one concern. So they run a lot of 11 personnel.
Yeah.
They don't have 3 full receivers now, so they got to go a little heavier. But Cade Otton, big game this week.
Young and experienced, youthful exuberance. Like, we just got to keep them in the ringer fold.
That's right.
Trey Palmer's going to be pissed off. He's going to get a big game for him.
Last one. I'm marking the Falcons down. If they lose that game, they should give up team. By the way, Sheil, if they didn't take Penix, after having seen all the rookies, who should they have taken that would have had a huge impact for them at number 8?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who was taken. I mean, I don't want to be a homer, but Quinyon Mitchell would be looking very good as a corner in that secondary. And just look at like the last 3 years, the guys they could have had. I mean, last 3 or 4 years, they really could have built on the lines of scrimmage very well. But yeah, that was one name that came to mind.
Byron Murphy, I know he got hurt, but I think he would have been really good for them too.
Jared Verse. I mean, there were definitely good defensive players that they could have taken and added to that group.
One of the stories is that none of the defensive guys have really taken the leap.
But we knew that in the draft, right? Nobody was taken till pick 15.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people were pretty down on it. But yeah, you're right. That the cornerback that you got, the guy Detroit got, the D-back.
Arnold, yeah.
It seems like those have been kind of the winners.
Yeah, there hasn't been one dominant guy yet for you're looking at the defensive rookie of the year odds, I can tell.
Yeah, Jared Verse is the favorite. And
Verse was good last year.
He's probably the guy if you had to pick one guy, if they could redo it, that'd probably be the guy.
All right, last one that I really liked. And I try not to bet against the Patriots. Oh, Kyle's sad.
You're laying 7 with the Jets?
No, I'm not. I'm going to tease the Jets with the over of 35 down to 35.5. The over is 41.5. Tease the Jets to 1. Over 35.5. The Pats are a sneaky. The over-under lines have not caught up to the team they have. Their defense sucks. Yeah. It's awful. The quarterback actually makes some plays. May's pretty good. and they're a garbage time threat, right? They're an end of the half, 2-minute warning. They can actually get a field goal. They're not, offense isn't terrible. And it's also an all-time must-win for the Jets. Like their season's over if they don't win this. They beat them already. And the only fear would be like a 24-3 type game, like what they had on the Thursday night. But this Pats team is going to be able to put up like 14. So 35.5 seems right. Is there any way the Pats actually win this game?
Wait, what's the teaser?
So
terms?
Jets down to -1.
-1.
The over to 35.5. I just need to get to 37 points. Jets can win 20-17 and I win.
Is it a good sign that Davante Adams had to give a fiery post-game speech when he had been in New Jersey for like 3 days after last week's game? Did you see this story?
I did.
So you have that. I mean, everything that can go wrong has gone wrong with the Jets. You mentioned it. Drake May will push the ball downfield. The Jets' defense has actually been the bigger story over their offense. They're 21st in defensive DVOA. The offense ranks exactly the same, 21st. You thought you were getting a mediocre offense with a great defense, and their defense isn't good.
But Rodgers basically said that. He's like, our offense needs to take care of our defense. We need to score points, give them lead.
Yeah,
He's basically saying our defense sucks.
Yeah.
Which I was surprised by. But as usual, Aaron Rodgers. As usual, Aaron Rodgers said something.
I think you're on the right side. I would be afraid to have any wager depending on the New York Jets with the way this season
I don't think
is
you
going.
understand, and nobody does because nobody cares about the Patriots, nor should they. This was a pretty traumatic week in Patriots Nation.
I've been following.
The Mayo soft thing. First of all, they were so, and we talked about it Sunday night in the pod, so I'm not going to rehash that. They were so bad on Sunday night and so poorly coached, and just everything was mismanaged, and they looked awful. And then the quotes after the game from him, which as usual, Mayo took no culpability for anything and just blames everybody else, says he's soft, and that really went badly. And then Belichick said, fuck it, and just started like doing little sniper shots at him at the 8 different shows he's on and just escalated the stakes. And there's like a real conversation now in Massachusetts because God knows the media loves this stuff there. It's like, could this guy be one and done? Would Kraft do this? I personally don't think he would. I think he'll give him more time, but it's a fucking mess. The wide receiver room, they've had like 3 different guys have complained publicly. Yeah. No other team has this.
I feel like this is an under the radar, like huge story for week 8. With everything you said, and I've been following it all week long. Like if they come out and are just get blown out by 35 points at home, what are you doing after that with the head coach? Now, is there a chance that it's not as bad on the inside as it seems on the outside, and they come out and they play well, and some players actually like Gerard Mayo and they figure some things out? That's the other thing. You know, maybe you come out of this saying, oh my gosh, everything last week was so overblown with the way they played in London, and they're competitive in this game. But they're a sneaky big story, I feel like, in this week.
I always, listen, the player podcasts are for the most part ridiculous, and in player interviews, ex-player interviews, you always have to take with a grain of salt. I was shocked by how many people who talk or have platforms were like, wow, you don't call your team soft.
Yeah.
That's never worked. That's never motivated anybody. That's like the number one thing you can't do. Like people are pretty horrified by it. And you try to walk it back the next day. He's like, I wasn't saying the team was soft. I was saying we played soft. It's like, no, you said the team was soft. That's actually what you did. And it's one of like many huge mistakes he's made. But they just seem really poorly prepared and poorly coached, which every year there's 2 teams, right? Like Carolina last year with Reich, you knew something was like way off. Like it's like something, Monty Williams and the Pistons.
Yeah.
It's like, this seems off. Something's wrong. And that's the vibe I'm getting from the Pats.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't seem right. What do you see when you're watching?
Maybe they could try a different former linebacker as their head coach next year.
Mike Vrabel?
He is available, I believe. I think the offense is kind of interesting early in the game. And then the second half offenses have not been as inspiring. Once they get off the script.
Yeah. Once they try to establish the run, it's a disaster because they can't run the ball.
But the one stat I like, they were 31st in explosive pass rate the first 5 weeks with Brissett. They're up to 15th the last few weeks.
Yeah, Kyle.
Hitting some big plays down the field. They finally hit some 10, 20 plus yard plays. And that's when you don't have a good, you've talked about this, when you don't have a good offense, try to hit some big plays and see what happens.
We had a Drew Bledsoe season. I think it was the second season. The same thing, couldn't run the ball. Team wasn't very good. And they were just like, Drew, air it out. And he did, and it was kind of it kind of worked a little bit.
Yeah.
And he's just flinging the ball. They had Ben Coates that year. I have a feeling if they're actually going to try to win this game, which I would assume they'd want to because it's the Jets, like that's it for the run game. They can't run the ball. The line sucks. So I just generally like the over because I don't think they're going to be able to stop the Jets. The tackling linebackers, they've made history with how bad the tackling is. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
So I think Breece Hall could have a big game. So I like Jets -1 with the over 35.5. So, all right. So we have 4 on the fence with Colts +11.5 with the under 52.5 in Houston. I'll let you guys vote on that. You like that one?
I like it. I like it
Okay.
too. Yeah.
So we'll add that.
Cardiac Colts.
And then Bills -3 in Seattle. What are your thoughts?
I'm completely passing on this game. I'm excited to watch it. It's actually
you
the game I'm
like
most
it.
excited
I
to
like
watch.
it. It's one of my favorite. But listen, I thought Dabbundo, we had a nice dinner last night. Bill, I thought he would come in, support me, my pick. But that's okay. Listen, you gotta speak with whatever you're feeling at the time. I do like the Bills -3 at Seattle.
Well, maybe what I can do is do little half bets. Or we could do a parlay with all 3 of those.
This is
Bills -3, Jags +7.5 and the over. Or maybe just Bills -3 with Jags +7.5.
I do feel like Charlie at the Wall and It's Always Sunny, and I know that they filmed it right outside the office. I'm trying to keep track of all the teasers that have just been thrown at me in the last 10 minutes.
What if we teased Jacksonville up to, or not teased, nudged it up to +7.5 so we get that touchdown buffer with Bills -3 and it's a Dabbundo Sheil parlay.
All right, you're responsible for the Jags part of that.
Let's do it.
All right, there you go.
All right, so we just looked this up. Bills -3 and then the Jags up to +7.5. That parlay is +179. So I think we'll sprinkle something on that too. I also need an anytime touchdown scorer, preferably a tight end, because FanDuel is running a very cool touchdown bonus. What are we getting for that one, Kyle? 30% profit boost.
Has to be a tight end.
Does it have to be a tight end? No.
I was going to say Cade Otton's looking real good this weekend.
Cade Otton.
For the Bucks, yeah.
Tucker Kraft?
Somebody's got to score.
Oh, my
No,
God, Tucker Kraft.
We're against Green Bay.
Emotional hedge. You lose
we're not emotionally hedging
okay,
with
all
Tucker
right.
Kraft.
I do Brian Thomas often, so maybe he could score for the Jags.
So you got
The only reliable receiver.
Cade Otton +180 anytime scorer?
Sure. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody's got to score for the Bucks. They will
All right.
eventually get points in the game, right? So,
all right.
hopefully.
What a performance by
If
you.
not
Cade
my-
Otton and the Jags just coming in on fire. What a
TD.
performance.
This is the NFL.
And we're definitely doing Colts under. Okay. I got this. All right, Kyle, it's time. The $1 million picks for week 8, coming off a $580,000 windfall last week. That really should have been more. We're up $163,000 for the year, mainly because I don't bet on Deshaun Watson. Do some of the stuff your buddy Austin Gale does on Paper Chasers. I'm glad we came up with a name finally for
It's a good
the
name.
pod.
I've got some fun
We had a
headlines.
bunch of trademark violations before we got to Paper Chasers. $1 million picks week 8. We all love the Bears -2.5 against Marcus Mariota and Washington. Do we put the caveat that if Daniels plays, this is a no bet, or do we just ride it?
I would be shocked if Daniels played.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's just ride it. You know what? We're gambling.
Yeah.
Let's go. Bears -2.5. Washington doesn't need this game. This is the last easy Bears game before it gets hard. Washington D is terrible. The Bears can move the ball on them. So that's our first one. Falcons -2.5 against the depleted Bucks. Dabbundo doesn't like it. But you like the Bucks and the tease a little bit, even though you could have named 3 receivers on the team. Sheil and I like the Falcons in a bounce back.
Yeah.
-2.5. No Mike Evans. No Chris Godwin. Just played on a Monday night. These teams have already played. This feels like Atlanta gets their team right. That's 2. The Bengals -1.5 against the Philadelphia Eagles. Sheil doesn't like this one.
Dabbundo likes it.
Dabbundo likes it.
Yeah, a little bit. You mentioned havoc. I'm a little scared because the Bengals do not create much.
They do not create much havoc. The havoc might be on the Philadelphia sideline with people throwing stuff. I just think we saw this game a few weeks ago, a version of it with Tampa, where they just threw on Philly the whole game. Philly's defense wore down. The Bengals, I think, can do that again. I don't think the Bengals are going 3-5. So that's 3. We're going to put $200,000 on each of those. We are also putting $200,000 on the Jets teased down to -1 with the over of 30 down to 35.5 because Drake May can get cheap points. And I think the Jets win. If the Jets lose this game, this becomes one of the dark moments in Jets history. They lose this dysfunctional Pats team that's turning on the coach.
Yeah.
Come on. And we all like this one. Another tease. Colts up to 11.5 against Houston. They've already played. The under up to 52.5. 53 points needs to beat this. No Nico Collins.
Yeah, he's dominated the Colts in this head-to-head.
The fear would be the Anthony Richardson pick six, like to start the first quarter. It's all of a sudden it's 7-0. You're like, oh my God. All right. And then last but not least, we're doing a little 100K on a Dabbundo Sheil parlay. Sheil loved the Bills -3 against Seattle. Dabbundo likes the Jags. We're going to bring them up to +7.5. That is +179 on FanDuel. So we'll put 120K on that so to get that over 200. And then last but not least, FanDuel's 30% touchdown scoring boost.
Are you in on Otten?
I can't wait. This is all I'm going to be watching.
Kate Otten, +180.
I'm going to have to have a screen on Falcons Bucks now for some reason.
We'll throw 25K on that just to respect ourselves.
Yes.
Sheil Kapadia, we can hear you on the Ringer NFL show. Dabbundo, you're on the Ringer Gambling show. You pop on Philly Special from time to time, right?
Yeah, we had a short-lived Phillies playoff run to reminisce.
Well, short-lived. I didn't have a playoff run at all, so I'm jealous. Good to see you guys.
You too.
Good to see you too.